Hey everybody, in this video we're going to be showing you the spinning reels that we use when we're surf fishing for the sharks. We're going to start off with our bigger reels, which is the Daiwa BG 8000 and the Fenor Offshore 7500. We also use quantum Cabo reels that we'll get to later in the video. Right off the bat, I would pick the Daiwa BG 8000 over the Fenor Offshore. One of the main reasons is the line lay. This thing lays the line absolutely perfect. The Fenor, not so much, but it's usable. Looking at the line lay, you can see how even that is on the Daiwa. Looking at the line lay on the Fenor, you can see it's kind of gobbed on there. That's a big difference between the reels. The BG 8000 weighs 30 ounces. The Fenor 7500 weighs 32.5. So they're pretty close. But I mean, you can clearly see the size of the spool difference. The BG 8000, we put 520 yards of 65-pound Sufix 832 on it. We spooled it ourselves. The Fenor 7500 has right now 450 yards of 65-pound Powerpro. I did run it for a long time with 395 yards of 80-pound Powerpro. Probably the big difference between the two reels is the anti-reverse. This has an instant anti-reverse and this has the ratchet type. I mentioned the ratchet. This is what I mean. It moves and then it comes back and it catches. I got the leaders still attached to these reels. So as far as the drag goes, the max drag for the BG 8000 is 33 pounds. That's on paper. Alan Hawk tested it and the reel failed at 26 pounds. So if you don't go over 26 pounds of drag, which most people really don't, in the real world, this reel's fine. This reel will do the 60 pounds. He tested that also on his website. And this reel will do 60 pounds of drag, which is kind of unbelievable. The big difference, as I mentioned before, is the line lay, which allows you to cast. And the big spool of the BG allows you to cast more. Also with the line lay, if you see, this reel is spooled to the very top and have no problems with it. The big disadvantage to the pin battle reels is they won't lay the line that even and you end up getting the tangles when you cast. Even though the Fenor doesn't lay this line good, it's kind of gobbed. I haven't had hardly any problems with it, but that's going to affect your casting. When the line lays like this, it's going to cast a lot better. One thing that's annoying about the Fenor, it takes a lot of turns on the drag knob to get it to go tight. Whereas the BG, if I have it in the rod holder and I do one turn, it's fairly tight and then I may tighten it up a little more. With the Fenor, you have to go and then it begins to get tight. And so if you're going back and forth between the two reels, that kind of messes you up. You may over tighten this one or under tighten the Fenor. Another thing that both these reels, the drag clicker on the Daiwa is okay. It's like built into the spool at the bottom of the spool. The Fenor's has the little spring with the little pawl on it that hits the inside of the spool to make the click sound. This one, most of the Fenors have like a dull clicker, so don't really like that. They got a unique sound to them. This one does. And it's caught a lot of fish, so the clicker's actually even more silent. On the smaller Fenor, the clicker is very loud, and I really like that. A couple of more things before we move on to the smaller reels. Number one, Alan Hawk reviewed these reels on his website at alanhawk.com. So if you want to look at that, you can look at that. Very detailed review. Number two, you can't get these reels wet. They're not sealed. You can't be dunking them in the water or having the waves splash over them, because that's not what they're made for. And especially the BG, it'll be gone. So do not get these reels wet, and they will last a long time. I have not done anything to this reel, and it's 12 years old. And I used it heavily for 9-10 years. But overall, it would be the BG between these two reels. Now we're going to look at our light shark reels. This is the BG 5000. This is the Fenor 5500. This reel weighs 22.5 ounces. This reel weighs 27.5 ounces. So 5 ounces different, and that's a lot. These reels are identical to the bigger ones. This has the backup and a reverse in it. They're the same reels. This one has 45 pounds of drag. This one has 22, but in reality, it probably only has about 20. If you're fishing for the sharks, this reel is going to do better than the BG 5000. If you're looking for a general use saltwater reel, the BG 5000 is going to be the better bet. It's lighter. It doesn't have as much drag, but for general fishing, it'll be fine. If you're going to try to target the sharks specifically, this would be the better reel because of the heavier drag. The BG 5000, they both hold the same line. This has 300 yards of 50-pound Sufix 832 with 45 yards of hollow core underneath of it. The Fenor 5500 has 300 yards of 65-pound Jerry Brown solid. Just like the BG 8000, the BG 5000 lays the braid perfect, which is the big advantage of this reel over the Fenor. This has the ratchet and a reverse that I showed you on the 7500, and the line lay on this reel is terrible. You can see the big gobs, so it does not cast that well. One thing about this Fenor 5500 is the drag clicker. That is loud. That is loud, louder than my Fenor 7500. So that is the one thing I really like about this. And she did catch the 100-pound black tip on a chest mount. That was the only time we used it saltwater fishing. It doesn't work as good for general filming. But man, the drag is really loud in that video, and that's on the channel. So we throw a lot of cut bait. What I mean by that is you use smaller hooks for the bluefish. That's where this reel is better. And if you hook a shark, you can catch it. We caught a 5.5-foot black tip on this. Of the two reels, for general use saltwater, this one for sure. If you was going after the sharks, this one. One thing I forgot to mention when I went over the BG 8000 and the Fenor 7500, this is the older version of the Fenor offshore. They have a newer version. You can tell because it has a gray spool. But the big difference is the line lay. The line lay has been fixed on the new ones. Alan Hawk reviewed it, and it's fine. But there's a problem. This spool is just like all the spools on the spinning reels, they're nice and smooth. The lip is nice and smooth. The new Fenors is kind of a rough texture, and when he was fishing with braid, it was dramatically reducing the casting distance. And he said it was very noticeable, so much so that he got sick of messing with it and put mono on it for the rest of the review instead of the braid. So on the new reels, they fixed the line lay issue. But then you have that spool that has the rough texture where you can't cast. That's just something to think about if you're looking at these reels. With 300 yards of line, this one has the 345. If you're casting from the shore, these reels are fine for the sharks. You're only having your line out 40, 50 yards, and you still have 250 to 300 yards on the spool, you're going to be fine. The other reels, with the huge amount of line they carry, That allows you to wade out. In the summertime, I wade out up to 125 yards. And if you do that with these reels, you're really setting yourself up for problems. A monster black tip will pull 150 yards of line in a heartbeat. And the drag knobs are the same as what I mentioned before. It takes a lot to tighten the drag knob on the Fenors. They're identical to the other reels. The next reels we're going to look at is our Quantum Cabo reels, which have not been used that much because we use a lot of the BGs, and then I use a lot of this smaller Fenor as the light shark reel. The Quantum Cabos are going to be used a lot more this year. Now we're going to look at our Quantum Cabo reels. This is the Cabo 120. This is the Cabo 80. This reel has been discontinued. They still sell this reel. The Cabo 120 weighs 33 ounces. The Cabo 80 weighs 25 ounces. Clickers. They both have really nice and loud clickers. The line lay is pretty good. It's much better than the Fenor. Not as good as the Daiwa BGs, but pretty close. These reels really fix any drawbacks in the previous two reels. So the Cabo 120 has an instant anti-reverse like the BG 8000. It also has a backup anti-reverse, but this thing will do 65 pounds of drag. So it will handle as much drag as you could possibly ever use. Nobody's ever going to use that much. So it's like the power of the Fenor with the backup anti-reverse and the line lay of the BG. This reel has 425 yards of Jerry Brown 100-pound hollow core. The Cabo 80, this has 400 yards of 50-pound Seaguar hollow core that was spooled on by a machine. The hollow core line this Seaguar is very thin and it lays flat on the spool. And if you're putting it on with a machine, you can pack a little bit more. So it probably holds about 50 yards more than it would for normal solid 50-pound braid. Normally it would hold about 350 yards. Alan Hawk says the Cabo 120 has one of the best drags you can buy on any spinning reel. Only the Stellas and the Saltigas are better drags, and this is very close to it. The Cabo 80 is probably in the top 5 or 6 reels that you can buy for the drag. So these Cabos have really, really good drags. This will do 55 pounds of drag. Alan Hawk tested it. He was shocked. So that's why this is now being pressed in to the new light shark reel. The drag knobs are like the BGs. They don't require a lot of turning to get them tight. So if you're switching between these and the BGs, it's not much of a switch at all. So that's another reason the Fenors are going to be pushed back, and I'm replacing them with these. Just like the other two reels, you really can't get these wet. They're not sealed. They have a couple of more seals. Still, basically, you're not submerging these reels. It's not going to happen. But they got a little bit more seals than the BG or the Fenor. Okay, so we're wrapping it up here. And here would be the choice. If I was looking for a big reel, a main reel for shark fishing in the surf, it would be the Daiwa BG 8000, period. If you wanted a smaller reel to fish for the sharks, that if you're not wading out 125 yards out in the summertime, this Cabo 80 would probably catch you just about everything you hook if you're casting from the shore or you're wading out just a little bit. For a general use saltwater reel, as I said before, the Daiwa BG 5000. But this reel for a light shark reel is pretty impressive. It's way overkill for the bluefish, is what we're using it for now, because I can just quickly flip a shark rig on there, and it's a combination of the drag, the clicker, the turning of the drag knob, the power the reel has. It's just better than the Fenor and it's better than the BG 5000 if you're going to catch the sharks with it. So this is a setup you guys are going to see quite a bit, is these two reels. I'm going to try to get the Cabo 120 out there this year. It was mainly bought to kayak the baits out. My nephew kayaked them out, and we haven't been able to go fishing with him. So I got to use the reel. I bought it. What am I using it for? But if you have any questions, you can ask me. And one thing before I go, you guys see I use colored line. The reason I do that, I've been experimenting with different colors that I can see when we're trying to leader the shark. I can see the line from a distance and gauge where the shark is, and see your line in the water. I got news for you. You think the yellow line is really bright? It's really no difference than the dark green line. If anything, the blue line I might see better. But I do want to give you guys a big piece of advice. If you're surf fishing, do not pick the white line, period. Don't do it. The birds can't see it. And you can't see it either. This Cabo 80 is not being used that much. It has probably 3 times more bird strikes than all the reels I got put together. I bet you the birds have ran into this thing 6, 7 times and got caught up in it a couple of times because the birds can't see it. So do not buy the white line if you're surf fishing. I'm going to try the Sufix 832, the bright green line, when I get new line. So I hope this helps some people make their decision on what they want to do with their shark reels. And good luck catching a trophy blacktip.